The worst part about being confined to a wheelchair isn't the helplessness. It's not that you can't run when it rains or that you have to beg for a glass of water. The worst part is the silence. The silence that people around you fill with lies. They think that just because your legs don't work, your brain has stopped too. That you've become nothing more than a piece of furniture. Ethan sat in his luxurious living room staring out at the garden he had designed himself. He was an architect. He used to build skyscrapers. Now his world had shrunk to 4 wheels and an elevator in the hallway. It had been 6 months since the accident. 6 months of hell, where his only solace was supposed to be the love of his wife, Laura, and the support of his only brother, Marcus. At least that's what he thought at the beginning. The sound of high heels on the marble floor snapped him out of his thoughts. Laura? She smelled of that expensive perfume he had bought her for their last anniversary. "Hi, darling," she said, kissing him on the forehead. The kiss was cold, mechanical, like a stamp on a document. "Marcus is here. We'll be in the study. We need to discuss the company finances. You know everything would collapse without me." Ethan didn't answer. He struggled to nod his head weakly. He was playing his role, the role of a numb, broken man stuffed with painkillers. Laura left, leaving the door slightly ajar. She thought he wouldn't move anyway. A moment later, he heard Marcus's voice. "How is he today?" his brother asked. His voice was low, confident, the voice of someone who already feels like the master of the house. "Like a vegetable," Laura laughed. That laugh, Ethan used to love it. Now it sounded like a knife scraping against glass. "He's been staring out the window for 3 hours. The doctor says the depression is progressing. It's perfect." "Perfect," Marcus repeated. "Did he sign the power of attorney?" "Not yet, but tomorrow is his birthday. I'll slip it to him after the cake. We'll tell him it's a greeting card from the employees. He doesn't even read what I give him anymore. He trusts me, the idiot." Ethan gripped the armrests of his wheelchair so hard his knuckles turned white. His heart hammered in his chest, but his face remained a mask of indifference. "And what about us?" Marcus asked, and then there was silence, a silence broken by the sound of a kiss. A long, passionate, shameless kiss, right behind the wall, 2 meters away from the man they were both betraying. "Just 1 more month, baby," Laura whispered. Her voice trembled with excitement. "We'll take over the firm, sell this house, and put Ethan in Serenity Gardens. It's a decent facility. He'll have care there for the rest of his days, and we will finally be free and rich." Ethan closed his eyes. He felt a single bitter tear roll down his cheek. But inside something snapped. The pain in his legs, which he hadn't felt in weeks, suddenly became sharp. Distinct. It wasn't the pain of dying. It was the pain of coming back to life. Serenity Gardens? Ethan thought. Over my dead body. Laura and Marcus had a perfect plan, but every plan has a weak point. Their weak point was arrogance. They were so sure Ethan was a mindless puppet that they stopped paying attention to the details. They didn't notice that more protein powder was disappearing from the kitchen cabinet. They didn't notice that Ethan was sleeping more during the day to save strength for the night. And most importantly, they didn't know about the old gym in the basement, to which Ethan kept the key hidden under his mattress. When the clock in the living room struck 2 a.m. and the sounds of their joint celebration drifted down from the bedroom upstairs, Ethan began his own war. He would slide off the wheelchair onto the floor. This was the hardest moment. Pain shot through his spine as if someone were stabbing him with red-hot needles. He crawled to the service elevator, once installed for the staff. He rode down to the basement. There, in the darkness illuminated by a single bulb, the miracle began. The first week was a nightmare. He couldn't even move a toe. He lay on the mat and screamed into a pillow out of helplessness. But hatred is powerful fuel. Every time he wanted to give up, he saw Marcus's face laughing in the study. He saw Laura signing the takeover documents. That gave him strength. In the 3rd week, the big toe on his left foot twitched. Ethan wept, not from sadness, but from happiness. It was a sign. The connection was back. He began training like a man possessed. The parallel bars, which he once used for calisthenics, now became instruments of torture and salvation. He pulled himself up, forcing dead leg muscles to react. Every night he sweated, cursed, and fought for every millimeter of movement. One night, a week before his birthday, it happened. Ethan grabbed the wall bars. He took a deep breath. "Get up," he growled to himself. "Get up, damn it, or let them win." He tensed his thigh muscles. They shook like leaves in a storm. Sweat poured into his eyes. But slowly, inch by inch, his body lifted from the mat. His knees, which were supposed to never support him again, locked into place. He stood, he swayed, gasping like a steam engine, but he stood on his own strength, without the wheelchair, without anyone's help. He looked into the mirror on the wall. He saw a man he hadn't seen since the accident. He saw Ethan, the architect, the husband, the warrior. There was no pity in his eyes anymore, only cold resolve. "You are finished," he whispered to the empty room. He returned to his wheelchair just before dawn, moments before Laura came down for a glass of water. When she entered the living room, Ethan was sitting where he always did, head resting on his chest, faking a deep, medicated sleep. "Poor thing," Laura muttered, passing him. "Soon you won't have to suffer any more." Ethan smiled internally. "Oh yes, darling, very soon." Scene shift, the birthday party. Laura dropped the microphone. The screech of feedback pierced the air, but no one even flinched. Everyone was staring at Ethan. You can speak?" Marcus stammered, taking a step back. Ethan didn't answer. He gripped the edge of the table with both hands. He tensed the muscles he had tortured in the basement for the last few weeks. Slowly, majestically, he began to rise. The wheelchair rolled backward, tipping over onto the grass with a loud crash. Ethan stood, upright, tall, powerful. The guests held their breath. Some stood up from their chairs in disbelief. Laura was as white as a sheet. "I don't just speak, brother," Ethan said, his voice cold and hard as steel. "I also walk, and I hear. I heard every word, every whisper, and every plan you made while you thought I was just furniture." He took a step toward them. Marcus tripped over his own feet and fell onto the platform. "Ethan, it's not like that," Laura started, trying to grab his hand. Ethan swatted her hand away with disgust. "Don't touch me." He took a small remote from his pocket and pressed a button. On the giant screen behind him, where childhood photos were supposed to be displayed, a video appeared. The quality was perfect. It was Ethan's bedroom. Laura and Marcus in bed, laughing, counting Ethan's money, and planning how quickly to neutralize him. Their words echoed across the entire garden, exposing their vileness to everyone they knew. "Security!" Ethan shouted. Two massive guards appeared instantly. They were loyal to him, not his wife. "Get them out of here," Ethan ordered, pointing at the trembling couple. "They have no right to take anything. No clothes, no cars, not a single penny. You came here with nothing, and you will leave with nothing." "Ethan, please!" Laura screamed as the guard dragged her toward the gate. "I love you. It was a mistake." "The mistake was that I trusted you," Ethan replied, turning his back on them. "Now, get out of my house." As the gates closed behind the traders, applause broke out in the garden. Shy at first, then louder and louder. Ethan stood proudly, feeling the sun on his face. He was alone, but for the first time in a long time, he felt truly free. He knew the rehabilitation of his legs was over. Now the rehabilitation of his life was just beginning. Ethan proved that the greatest strength lies not in muscles, but in the will to fight. And betrayal, though painful, can be the best motivation for change. They gave him a sentence, and he turned it into a victory. If this story gave you satisfaction and you like seeing justice prevail, hit the like button and click subscribe. We are building a community of people who believe in karma. Let me know in the comments. Would you forgive your brother for such a betrayal, or would you do exactly what Ethan did? I'm waiting for your opinions. See you in the next story.